Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the OT podcast. We are officially over halfway through the 2025 NFL season. As my name is Thomas Bailey, alongside, of course, Owen Reed, yours truly, as we are set for Week 10 of the NFL season. Trade deadline was earlier today at 4 p.m. It's been a little bit over an hour and a half since that moment now, as of recording this. Not too great as Bills fans, at least in terms of our thought processes on the trade deadline. Not really too much. I saw a post by the NFL on Fox or whatever, and it was like, heart this post and repost it if your team made a deal, and I could not, unfortunately, do anything because we did nothing, just like Brandon Beane. I guess he must have took too much NyQuil last night because he must have slept through the trade deadline. But we'll get to it later on. There were a ton of great trades, ton of huge trades, especially in our division with the Jets and company. There were a lot of moves. Obviously, Sauce Gardner going to the Colts is a big one. Colts are one of the best teams in the NFL as of right now. That's a huge move for them. And then if you take a look at another player on that defense that gets shipped off, Quinnen Williams going to the NFC to join, I guess, or bolster that Cowboys defensive line that lost Micah Parsons, but now trades a first-round pick. So, I guess, who would you rather have, Quinnen Williams or Micah Parsons? Leave that in the comment section below, I guess. It's a pretty big question.
I'd probably lean towards one of them pretty easily.
Really, Micah? I'd lean towards Micah, too, but...
He's younger, too, isn't he?
Who knows? Yeah, well, yeah, he's younger. But, anyway, moving into this week, last week's standings are as follows. The worst record out of all is Brian at 7-7, followed by me at 8-6, then Owen at 9-5, and the AI at 10-4 wins the week. But out of us two, he finally holds the trophy for the first time in literally forever, it feels like. So, pretty interesting there for Owen. Congratulations, buddy.
Thank you. It's been a long separation, but we're finally starting to talk things out again. So, hoping it gets a little bit better.
Hopefully it gets going. Here. As there are a couple other things to get into here, obviously. As we started off with the records, I guess. We have the records from last week, obviously, but the records overall right now, I lead the records at 91-43-1. The AI is second, 87-47-1. Brian is 82-52-1, and Owen in last place at 78-56-1, despite winning the week out of us two. And out of us three, if you add Brian in. So the AI, the only one beating you this week. But hopefully that changes, at least for us, this week as we move into the Week 10 slate. Before we get into that, 14 games to get into, of course, today. 2 teams worth of games are on the bye. The Kansas City Chiefs and the Cincinnati Bengals. The Dallas Cowboys and the Tennessee Titans. Tough week for me in fantasy. It's going to be after losing half my team.
Good luck.
But we'll see what happens. Moving straight into it then, Thursday Night Football. It is the Denver Broncos and the Las Vegas Raiders. The Broncos will be hosting this one, the first of 2 meetings for these divisional rivals. Raiders coming off a tough overtime loss after losing on a 2-point conversion failure in that overtime, a huge game for them. And the Denver Broncos are coming off a big win against the Houston Texans. Can the Broncos keep it going on a short week with maybe out Surtain again? Or do the Raiders bounce back after a very good showing for Brock Bowers in his debut since his injury?
Yeah, I was going to say the Raiders played really well last week, and it was pretty shocking, too. It was really close, went to OT, and if it wasn't for like the batted ball at the very end, they had a guy open. They could have very well won that game. So it's a really tough loss for the Raiders, and the Broncos continuing to find ways to win. They had a defensive slugfest against Houston last week. They ended up escaping that one with the win. They got just enough done on offense to get the win there. And now we're going on to a short week here. Divisional game. Again, like always, anything can happen in this one. But I'm going to have to lean towards the Denver Broncos here in this one. Just because the Broncos have been finding ways to win, and we haven't really seen a whole lot from the Raiders this season. They did show quite a lot of life last week, but is it going to be enough to carry over into a short week against a really good defensive team in the Denver Broncos, even though they will be without Surtain, but I think the defense will still be pretty darn good. So give me Denver on Thursday night.
Yeah, I'm going to have to unfortunately agree in that situation. It seems like the one thing that Denver can't stop this season is the run. If you can force the teams to throw the football, you're going to be able to win these games. And I do believe Ashton Genty's a solid running back. They're just underutilizing him right now. And unless they come into this game plan like, we're going to run the ball down your throat the entire game, I don't think they have a chance in this game. So unfortunately for the Raiders, I think that this is going to be a tough game. Geno Smith's not going to play well despite the depleted secondary without Surtain. I think it'll be a very good game from them. And the one thing is this is the one situation where Patrick Surtain being out really doesn't help the other team because their number one receiving option is the tight end who's going to be up against a linebacker anyway. So unfortunate for them, obviously. I do think the Raiders are a solid team. They're getting back to their ways, but Denver's going to take this one on a short week, 28-17. So before we hop into the AI and Brian's picks, make sure that you check out Owen's scores for his games on his YouTube channel here. Right at the end of the show, we will obviously have that on my face, probably somewhere over here on this side
somewhere
of the screen,
over there,
blocking my ugly face off the screen, as we'll see what ends up happening with his scores. But for this week, specifically Thursday Night Football, we're going with a clean sweep, baby. The Raiders are absolutely not favored by any of us. Denver is the option for both Brian and the AI.
Cool.
As we will move into our second game, this one, the first game ever in Berlin. Funny enough, there is an Indiana Jones movie that is in Berlin in the actual movie. So Indiana Jones in Berlin Part 2, apparently, for the NFL's edition. As Daniel Jones coming off a sluggish week against one of the worst pass defenses in the league. But 5 turnovers is inexcusable in any game, regardless of the opponent. Pittsburgh takes advantage and takes a win from them. And now this week they'll be taking on Atlanta, who leads the league in pass defenses. Before we go into anything, I want to talk about some stats here. 158.1 passing yards against per game right now, which is very, very good for the Atlanta Falcons defense. However, in 7 of Atlanta's 8 games, they've allowed at least 100 yards rushing for the other team. And who is the Colts running back? It's Jonathan Taylor. Not a good scene for them there. However, the silver lining here for Atlanta is they are 3-0 when Bijan Robinson has 15 carries or more this season. Every game that they have lost, he has had less than 15 carries. That is a very important part of this game. If they get him going early and often, they can totally win this game. The real question is going to be if they can do that here on a tough-ish week, especially traveling to a different country to play this game. Do you think they get it done or not? What are your thoughts?
You know, the Colts really did have a rough game last week against the Steelers. Daniel Jones kind of looked like Daniel Jones, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like he has been in recent years. They really couldn't get the run game going too much in the game. And overall, it's just a really messy performance from the Colts. And then you look over at the Falcons side of things. They also had a loss, but they kept it close to the Patriots, who've been red hot as of late. I think Michael Penix had a really rough game last week, so we'll see how he kind of rebounds going into this one. But for me, going into this one, it happens all the time with good teams. We know it as being Bills fans that there's always going to be that little spot in the season where like things kind of teeter a little bit. They don't play up to expectations and they kind of get right back on track. So that's kind of where my head is kind of leaning towards for this game, which is going to bring me into my lock of the week. Give me the Colts over the Falcons. I do not see the Colts losing 2 games in a row here, especially to a very inconsistent Falcons team that has an even more inconsistent quarterback. Even though it's in Berlin, so there could be some jet lag here in this one. I still feel pretty comfortable, though, in picking the Colts.
Yeah, I think this is a hell of a game. This is going to be a very good one, especially in the morning. It's finally here. We're actually getting a decent game in a freaking different country. I think Atlanta pulls off the upset on this in this game. I just think it happens. We've seen it happen so many times where these teams start off so great and you're like, oh, look at this team. We didn't expect them to be that great. And then they start like that little bit of a stride where they hit like a spot, that fork in the road where they just kind of can't seem to get it going. And I think this is that stretch for them right now. You saw how to beat them last week. Stop the run. If they can stop the run for that first quarter and a half, and just know that their secondary is good, if they blitz and force Jonathan Taylor into a bad spot, all they're going to really have to do is take the lead. If they start this game up 14-3 or 7-0 even, they really have a chance to win this football game. Look what they did against the Bills. They forced the Bills to throw the football, which is what they've been trying to get teams to do all season, is force teams to throw the ball because their pass defense has been so good. And after a sluggish week from Daniel Jones last week, I don't think he can win this game with his arm. I don't think they're going to be able to win this game if they are forced to throw the ball. I think Atlanta's offense has been subpar for sure, but against the jet-lagged Indianapolis defense, probably not at 100%. I think that I'd take that chance, and I think Indianapolis is going to be in for a shocking one here as Indiana Jones in Berlin Part 2 doesn't go the way that they want it to. I think that Indianapolis falls for the second straight week, 24-20. Give me the Falcons in my upset of the week. Tough one there for them. As we move into probably the stinker of the week, one of a couple, it's the Jets and the Browns. The Jets just trading everybody in the world, as there was a trade just a few moments ago that was released. Nothing crazy. It's Akeem Taylor, a cornerback, getting shipped off. I think it was to the Chargers, not quite sure. But either way, nonetheless, that is another defensive move that they made. Quinnen Williams, Sauce Gardner gone against a pretty lackluster Browns offense, but without anybody on defense now really to name, do you think the Browns get this one done, or do the Jets have something in them after the trade deadline?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Browns here in this one. Even if they didn't trade Sauce Gardner or Quinnen Williams, I think I probably still would have picked the Browns, to be honest with you. Because with how their defense has been playing, with really how their whole team's been playing, you haven't really heard those star players, like, really at all throughout the entire season. Like, how many times have you heard Quinnen Williams or Sauce Gardner this season? Not many times.
Yeah, no.
So, it's very concerning for the Jets, and it's partly why I feel like they moved away from those players, just because if they have these great value players on their team, but they're not producing because something's really kind of going on with the team, they're just kind of in like that mucky spot right now, might as well get the resources you can get out of them now. So that's kind of what the Jets are doing right now. And the Browns have one of the best defenses in the league still through the first 9 weeks of the season, which is, really going to hurt the Jets here, considering they guarded two of their best defensive players. Dillon Gabriel could have a nice game here on Sunday, so we'll see what happens with that, but I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, before we hop into that last game, Indianapolis is the pick for all three of you guys. I'm the lone wolf going against that. Obviously, it won't count as the lone wolf as it's my upset.
Yep.
But nonetheless, it is still a very interesting situation to be in. As we move back into this game, Cleveland is the pick for me as well. I think that the Cleveland Browns are just one of those teams that is very inconsistent on offense and very good on defense. And in a game like this where you're going up against a pretty terrible defense now in the New York Jets, who's very dysfunctional, especially after losing a ton of guys, it's got to be demoralizing for the locker room, especially for players like Breece Hall who wanted to get shipped that didn't get shipped. So unfortunate situation for him, but nonetheless, I'm going to have to lean with you guys. This Cleveland Browns team is also, Brian will pick the Cleveland Browns in this one. As my score prediction for this game is 24-14. Cleveland gets it done. That Jets offense has been an issue all season, and it will be once again in this game, especially going against one of the better defenses in Cleveland, as the AI will have the New York Jets winning this football game. But it is not the AI's upset. As the AI's upset, it will be something else later on down the line. So I guess we'll see what ends up happening with that. As we move along right into the next game. It is the Panthers and the Saints. The Panthers are at 5-4 this week after pulling off an upset last week against the Green Bay Packers. And the Saints, who just traded Rashid Shaheed earlier today to the Seattle Seahawks, are one less guy short after pretty much a shitty season so far to this point. Do you think they can bounce back and win this week? Or do you think the Panthers improved to 6-4, their best record since 2017?
It's pretty crazy times we live in right now where I'm going to pick the Carolina Panthers to win this football game.
Wow.
I don't think I've only been watching football for 6 years, but thank you, first of all.
Yeah.
But I've never seen the Panthers with 6 wins in a season before. And it's week 10, and they might have 6 wins after week 10. For the Carolina Panthers, it's pretty damn impressive. And even looking at the big picture of things, the Panthers are right in the thick of the playoff race, too.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild to think about. The Saints are definitely not in the thick of the playoff race. They also traded Rashid Shaheed to the Seattle Seahawks as well. One of the sellers at the trade deadline. The Panthers, though, definitely were not one of those sellers. They weren't buyers either, so they're kind of in that middle ground right there. But the Saints got shellacked by the LA Rams last week as we both kind of predicted for that one. Pretty much everyone, I feel like, predicted for that game. Is the Panthers shockingly beat the Packers. I feel like the Packers have had two really funky games with both the Browns and the Panthers now, but we will get to them later. But, I mean, there's really not a whole lot going on for the Saints right now. There really isn't. No. Tyler Shough had his first career start last week.
It was certainly a start.
It was a start, and that was about it. So we'll see how long until it ends. But I got to go with the Carolina Panthers. There's no reason to pick the Saints right now, so kind of going to have to go with them in this one.
Yeah, I agree 110%. I'm also going to side with the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers, last time at being 6-4, they went on a 6-game win streak to close out the season and then lost in the final week, went 11-5, lost in the wild card, unfortunately, to Seattle. But they had a hell of a season in that season, so I think they can replicate it to an extent. I don't know about 6 or 7 game win streak down the stretch here. I think that they'll be fine. Okay, but I do think they'll be fine. They'll be good enough. Where's Brian when you need him to hit you? He'll just come bursting in.
Oh no! Hopefully he doesn't see this tonight.
Yeah, hopefully not. Either way, though, I do think that the Carolina Panthers are certainly the better football team here. The one weak thing about the Panthers this season's been that defense, but going up against a young, inexperienced quarterback in Tyler Shough, who is not that great of a QB to begin with, I think will be a pure decision of heart, I guess, for this Carolina Panthers team to win this one. So go ahead and give me the Panthers 27-14. This offense will do its thing, and the defense will actually have a pretty good week for once as they win this one. Brian will also pick the Carolina Panthers, but the upset of the week for the AI is the New Orleans Saints, thinking Tyler Shough gets his first career win against Carolina this week. I like your thinking. Just kidding, no, I don't. I don't think this happens, but either way, the AI is upset. I don't think it happens, but
honestly,
it's not the worst.
There's been bigger upsets. There's been bigger ones.
There's been worse ones for sure.
Yeah.
But moving right along into potentially one of the games of the week, the New England Patriots taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the Tom Brady Bowl. Here we go. A huge one for these two football teams. I'll let you go, and then I'll kick it into some statistics on why I have my winner of this game. Do you think the Patriots continue their legitimate run, or do you think the Buccaneers say, hey, Patriots aren't as real as we think they are?
Well, the Patriots, I feel like last week definitely escaped the Atlanta Falcons. I felt like, going back to the Falcons here again real quick, if Penix even played serviceable in that game, the Falcons would have won the game. Same with the kicker. If the kicker was serviceable, they could have won the game.
Yeah, they just released him and signed Zane Gonzalez, who hasn't been on an NFL field in over a year. So.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. But I feel like the Patriots definitely escaped that one with a victory. Luck being on their side just a little bit in that one, as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are on their bye last week, so we'll see the status of quite a few of their players to see if they can play this week, because they're definitely one of those teams that have been riddled by injuries throughout the season. But give me Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win this one. I feel like after last week, the Patriots are due for a loss. The Patriots have a fairly easy schedule after this game throughout the rest of the year.
Oh, yeah.
So this is certainly, if the Patriots can win this game, they might have a slight edge for that division title. We'll see. I feel like this is a huge game. But if it goes how I think it's going to go, I think it's still going to be a good race for the division for the Buffalo, but we will see how it goes. Big game for Tampa here, too, because if they lose this game and the Carolina Panthers win, both teams have 6 wins on the season. It's crazy enough as that is, the Panthers could potentially race into division contention there. But I'm going to go with Tampa. Again, we'll see how the injuries play out, but I think New England is due for a loss.
I won't lie to you. I think New England's a very real football team. I don't think that they're a product of that easy schedule. I do think that they're very good. However, one thing that a lot of people are really undermining this season is how good this New England Patriots team is. Last week in the win over Atlanta, Drake May had his 8th straight game of 100-plus passer rating and 200-plus passing yards, surpassing Patrick Mahomes for the longest streak ever for a quarterback under the age of 24. That is an insane statistic that I wanted to throw out there. If May hits those same numbers this week and hits that 200-plus passing yards with 100-plus passer rating, he will move past Tom Brady for the second most all-time games in a row with that statistic of 200-plus passing yards. And that was done by Tom Brady in the season that the New England Patriots went 16-0 back in 2007. Tom Brady won the MVP that year. Tom Brady was one of the best quarterback seasons of all time that season. And so that says a lot about this team. The only question that I have about this football game is whether or not Drake May can win this game or not for them. The one big statistic that I've seen a lot of people talking about is this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. One thing that a lot of people will say about this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, at least in my opinion, is that they are a very big shootout team. They'll bounce back and forth, high-scoring affairs. Both teams play very, very well throughout most of the games, right? Here's the issue. Tom Brady was one of the best quarterbacks at that. Drake May, we haven't really seen do this yet. So, this season, in 5 of the 8 Tampa Bay Buccaneers games, the opposing team's quarterback has thrown the football over 30 times. Drake May's done that twice. Twice this season. They lost both games. In his career, he is 0-11 when throwing the ball 30 or more times in a game. He cannot put the team on his back in a situation like this. That is the issue that I'm running into right now. This season, right now, being 0-7 between last season's end and that 0-11 all time, I don't think it's going to be that great for him. If you're throwing the ball a lot, it's because you're trailing. That's what a lot of people say. I don't think so. 0-7 that I just mentioned, Drake May is 0-7 he's 0-11 overall. 0-7 in those games in one-score possessions. So you can say all you want that it's because they're trailing. Obviously, they're going to throw the ball more. But 7 of those 11 games, they only lost by 1 score or less. Like between 8 and 0 points. They lost by, obviously. 8 and 1, I guess. So that really means that it's not more so about losing by a lot of points or you're down by a lot, you're going to have to throw the ball more. He just can't simply put the team on his back, and that's the only reason I'm going with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Expect it to be a shootout. Expect it to be a very high-scoring game. I think New England is a real team, but I also think Tampa Bay is a real team. And Tampa's coming off a bye week. They're going to be rejuvenated, probably get a couple guys back from injury. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers handle business at home, taking down the New England Patriots 27-21, higher scoring football game. Go ahead and give me Tampa. As that's a lot of statistics to throw at you for that one segment there, but nonetheless, I do think it's a very important statistic to mention. As we move into the next game, it is the Minnesota Vikings at home to take on the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens coming off a huge win on Thursday night against the Miami Dolphins. They'll get an extra couple days of rest, whereas another team coming off a huge win, the Minnesota Vikings, taking down the Detroit Lions, and that was a very good game for them. Do you think J.J. McCarthy has another one in him this week to shock the world and take down the Ravens again? Or do you think the Baltimore Ravens get back one game closer to 500 as they're starting to creep into that playoff race and the AFC North race for the division?
Yeah, I was going to say last week, both teams I feel like impressed me quite a bit. The Vikings obviously beating the Lions is a big win for them. J.J. McCarthy played pretty well in that game. And going to Thursday night, Lamar Jackson had 4 touchdown passes against the Dolphins. But, it wasn't the Dolphins. Sorry, Brian. But both teams coming off big wins for their teams really for the whole season. It's really going to come down to, I feel like, for this one, who needs it more? And it's definitely the Baltimore Ravens. They need this game more than the Vikings do. So give me the Baltimore Ravens to win this one. It's just a matter of whose back is really against the wall more. Sure, the Ravens are really they're kind of getting back into like the division contention there. Still 2 games behind Pittsburgh. And then the Vikings kind of creeping right near where Green Bay Packers are. Packers are 5-2-1, so they're not too far behind. But the Vikings are also right in the thick of the playoff race right now, too. So I'm going to have to lean towards Baltimore in this one. I think they're going to have the extra motivation to go out and win this game. So I will not be surprised, however, if the Vikings do come out to win this game. I will say that. I will not be too surprised. But that being said, I am expecting Baltimore to take care of business here.
Yeah, I am also expecting Baltimore to take care of business. I think the Ravens are one of those teams where now that they're getting a little bit healthier, they're going to show what they really are. And I think that at the beginning of the season, I had them going to the Super Bowl. I think they're a very good football team, and I think that that's going to hold true in this game. So go ahead and give me the Ravens 21-14. I think that J.J. McCarthy, he had a good game last week. I think that he struggles in this one, especially after, like that kind of moxie that you get thinking you're very good. he might have one of those kinds of games. And I think that J.J. McCarthy is a solid quarterback. I just don't think he's enough to get past Lamar and this team. And a very good defense in Minnesota. They've had a lot of really good moments, but I do think that the Ravens are going to show that they really can't stop the run as well as they think they can. They are 7th right now in total defense allowed to the run specifically. So with Lamar coming back, finally getting a little bit more healthy, being able to scramble around, plus Derrick Henry in that backfield, expect this team to have a pretty good game, hold J.J. McCarthy to the sideline, force them to throw the football, and force a loss upon the Minnesota Vikings after a very impressive win. As Brian and the AI have differing views, the AI picks Baltimore, Brian picks the Minnesota Vikings, not in his upset of the week. The Minnesota Vikings are Brian's pick to win this game. I don't know if I agree, but either way, we'll see what ends up happening as we move in to Miami. The Dolphins and the Bills, an AFC East showdown. Josh Allen owns Miami, but the Dolphins are at home, so they have at least a little bit of a chance. Even though it is now, November, so probably not as warm and sunny in Miami as it would have been if it was in September. Nonetheless, though, a pretty big game for the Buffalo Bills, coming off a huge emotional win against the Kansas City Chiefs. Miami trying to tank right now, playing their way into that spot after losing to the Ravens on Thursday night. Do you think the Miami Dolphins get this one done against Buffalo, or do the Bills keep surging through the month of November?
Yeah, he just talked about the Dolphins kind of being sellers there at the trade deadline. They only ended up trading Jalen Phillips, though, surprisingly
Bradley
enough.
Chubb was somebody they were trying to trade, but they wanted at least a second. Nobody was willing to give it to him, so he stands put. And then Jalen Waddle, they wanted a first and then another pick next year, plus a wide receiver that could be an impact guy right now, and no team was willing to pay anywhere near that price for a guy that they deemed to be a second fiddle receiver in their offenses. So unfortunate in that situation.
Yeah, but we're kind of reaching that time of the season, too, where the teams that are, kind of selling their players, they're kind of showing to the league. They're kind of telling themselves, yeah, we know we're not going to, get far this season. We're not going to be able to accomplish too much. That's the main reason why that teams sell, because if teams know they can be competitive, they're going to be a lot less inclined to trade their players. And then you look at the Bills side of things. I'll not talk about the trade deadline because there is no trade deadline to talk about with the Bills.
Yeah, no.
But regardless, whether they would have added somebody or not, this should still be a pretty easy Bills win, hopefully. We'll see how it plays out. But this is one of those games the Bills got to take care of business. If I was not a Bills fan, this would probably be my lock of the week. But it is not, so really all I got to say for this one, Bills better take care of business.
Yeah, I agree 110%. I think the Buffalo Bills are going to have a pretty good game. However, I will say that Devon Achane is one guy that we didn't hear any trade conversation about. He was deemed untouchable by both head coach Mike McDaniel and, at the time, I guess, GM Chris Greer. But either way, I do think that, nonetheless, though, that Devon Achane's a very good running back, and we know that he can run the ball very well. Bill's one biggest weakness right now is stopping the run, obviously, so that's a big issue, of course, to get into. Bradley Chubb is more of a run-stopping guy instead of a pass-rushing specialist, but I still do expect James Cook to have a pretty good game in this one. Like I mentioned last week, James Cook and the Bills are undefeated when Cook runs for over 100 yards in a game. Expect him to do it again this week and expect another Bills W. 28-17. A pretty close game. Division rivals. We know that Mike McDaniel normally plays better in the second game, and they're at home this time. I expect it to be a pretty close game. I think Buffalo pulls away and wins this one 28-17. As both Brian and the AI agree with this being the AI's lock of the week this time around, as this is a pretty obvious one, but, it's got to happen sometimes to get to where they want to be, and hopefully for Brian's sake, that is somewhere soon, because I do feel bad for that guy, but we'll see what ends up happening. Moving into the next game, however, it is the Chicago Bears taking on the New York Giants. The Bears will be at home. Two of the oldest NFL teams, as this will be their 171st meeting between these two teams, and they're not division rivals, guys. That's a big thing.
Yeah,
it's a really big thing. Back in the day, though, they did play a lot, between playoffs and championships, because there weren't that many teams back then. So that's a big deal for these two teams. This is a historic rivalry. It's Jackson Dart, Caleb Williams, two very young and up-and-coming teams. Giants not as so healthy, but they can compete. Do you think they get it done on the road in Chicago, or do the Bears keep rolling?
I feel like for this game, you can kind of make your case for whoever you want to pick in this one.
Yeah.
The Giants, they played okay against the Niners. I mean, they kept it close for a little bit, but the Niners ended up pulling away there near the end. And then for the Bears, who would have thought Bears-Bengals would be game of the year?
Yeah.
What a game that was with Colston Loveland and Caleb Williams. It's two great players.
Yeah, I thought my screw you, but I thought 34-31 was a high score for what my prediction was. That was my prediction last week, 34-31, and even that was low. So crazy to mention.
But for this game, honestly, really pick who you think, pick who you want really for this one, because it was definitely a bit tough for me to pick. I'm going to go with the Chicago Bears. I don't know how great I feel about it. I feel like the Bears are one of those kind of inconsistent teams. One week they can play great on offense. It's typically when they play kind of crappy defense. And then defensively has been it was definitely underwhelming last week. But we'll see how they perform this week against the Giants. But I feel like going with the Bears is the safer pick in this one. And that is also going to be my pick for the week.
Yeah, I have to agree again. I think Chicago's the better football team. And if you mentioned last week with the Bengals, the Chicago Bears defense is normally really good, especially in the secondary. It's just when they go up against superstar receivers like Jamar Chase, like T. Higgins, like a couple others that they've played this season, like Amon-Ra St. Brown, for example, they're not going to have that good of a game. And that's kind of where we're at right now for the Chicago Bears. But luckily for them, Malik Neighbors is not going to be playing in this game, obviously, out for the season. So I do think that this could be an interesting game. It could be close, but I doubt it will be just because of that fact. And then if you look at the Giants' defense, normally the Giants' defense plays pretty well. But look at last week. Christian McCaffrey was the only guy on that offense last week for the 49ers, and they were still not being able to stop him this week against a team that has several different ways they can beat you. DJ Moore, Colston Loveland, obviously. We learned that last week. And then more so Rome Odunze, if they can ever get him involved in the offense. I think that this is a team that's pretty balanced on all senses of the way, and I think that that's going to cause a lot of issues for this New York Giants defense, and that's going to lead me to picking the Chicago Bears 20-17. I think it's not that close. I think the Bears will be up 20-10. It'll be 20-17, and then they'll go for the onside kick. But the Bears will actually recover the onside kick this time and win this one 20-17. So go ahead and give me Chicago in that one, as we are all in agreement on the Chicago Bears in this game. The Bears are both the AI and Brian's pick as well. As we move into our next game, this one could turn some heads, Houston and Jacksonville. First time they're meeting this season. One team underperforming in the Houston Texans after losing last week to the Denver Broncos. Even without Patrick Surtain, the offense still couldn't get going. Like I mentioned, C.J. Stroud was sacked 4 times in this game. Couldn't really do anything against that Broncos defensive front, which was the biggest issue. This week, they'll be going up against Josh Hines Allen and that Jacksonville Jaguars team, coming off a thrilling win in overtime against the Las Vegas Raiders. The Jaguars have exceeded expectations, playing well. The Texans have unexpectedly kind of fallen off a little bit. Do you think the Jags can keep that narrative going, or do the Texans finally respond to that narrative that they are not who they are and take a game against a division rival?
I'm a little worried about this game. I feel like I might have a little tingling of a gut feeling for this one. But I'm going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars in this one. Just one of those things where I always got to go against my gut for whatever reason. But
the Texans winning on a game-winning field goal.
Yeah, I'm waiting for it. But Texans' defense is really what makes me kind of think about this game for a second. Because really that's the only reason why the Texans have been in so many games they have been. And it's the reason why they have 3 wins on the season. If it wasn't for their defense, there's a good chance they might only have 1 or 2 wins on the year. And then for the Jaguars, they had a bit of a scare against the Raiders, a team that really has been underperforming this season. So take for that what you will. But Jaguars still got the win nonetheless in a very stressful game if you're a Jaguars fan. But thinking you guys will get back on track this week. The offense may still have some struggles. We'll see if Jacoby Myers is out there at all, if they're going to rush him into the offense after trading for him earlier today from the Raiders. So we'll see how that plays out, but I'm going to go with the safe pick and pick the Jaguars, even though I believe the Texans are the favorites to win this game.
They are. It's interesting that they are, but they definitely are, and that's what's kind of weird about this one. But either way, the Jacksonville Jaguars are a little bit better of a team in my opinion, especially because one thing that makes me always think to myself, Yeah, the Texans are going to lose. Is that offensive line is just so god-awfully bad. And they're playing some teams with pretty good pass rushes. And a team like this against Jacksonville, Trayvon Walker, yeah, sure, he got suspended or whatever at the end of the last game, got kicked out. But I do think that he'll still play, obviously, this week. And more importantly, adding Jakobi Meyers. It's like they played him in overtime. They're like, you know what, you can just stay here. You know, you just stay here. You don't even got to go back to Las Vegas. But either way, though, it's a tough one to play against Josh Hines, Allen, and company. And this Jaguars defense has been quietly exceeding expectations for a lot of people, but I just think that the Texans' offense is going to be the issue in this game for me. I think that the Texans' defense keeps them in it. The Texans' offense takes them out of it. So, realistically, give me the Jags to win this one 24-20, a pretty decent game. But the AI and Brian both pick Houston to win this football game.
Really?
So that's what scares me a little bit because the AI is picking Houston, and the AI has been really good these last couple of weeks.
But they're on a heater. Talk about the Patriots being on a heater. What about this AI?
Yeah, the AI might not be a fluke, though. So, who knows?
Yeah, we'll see.
Either way, moving into our next game, it is the Seahawks and the Cardinals. Head coach Jonathan Gannon will be starting Jacoby Brissett still this week, even though Kyler Murray is injured with that foot injury and it could be a little bit longer. He said that he would still go with Jacoby Brissett, which I think is honestly the right move at this point. They just beat the Dallas Cowboys on Monday Night Football, and on top of that, they also beat the lost to the Green Bay Packers and Colts, but very narrowly, who are two of the best teams in the NFL, which maybe not after this week with the Packers, who knows. But either way, they're still a good team. The Cardinals have now won 8 straight games against the Dallas Cowboys. I can't believe I saw that stat and said the Cowboys are 0-7 in their last 7 meetings against the Cowboys. I was like, yeah, you know what? Not this time. It's going to be different this time. And then I'm just stupid. But either way, nonetheless, moving into this game, the Seahawks looking like one of the best teams in the NFL after last week. Jaden Daniels' arm is snapped in half, but the winning streak for the Seahawks is not snapped as they continue playing very well. But either way, the Seahawks, Cardinals, NFC West Division rivalry. The Seahawks have lost 3 straight games to the Cardinals. Do we make the same mistake and pick the Seahawks anyway? Or do the Cardinals get this one?
I just want to say I got some insane Andy Dalton flashbacks when you mentioned that with the car. That was a bad one too. But anyways, for this game here, after last week, give me the Seattle Seahawks to win this game. They're, from what I've been seeing on people's power rankings, arguably the best team in the NFL right now, which is absolutely bonkers. Just the kind of season we've been having.
I'd pick the Chiefs over the Seahawks any day. I'm serious.
The Chiefs is the best team in the league?
Over the Seahawks. I'd rather pick the Chiefs as the best team.
You had to say out of anybody, you had to say the Chiefs, really? Couldn't say the Bills?
I'm saying it because the Chiefs are very much so not as good as they once were, and I'd still pick them over Seattle.
Oh, I mean, that's fair. But,
yeah, that's why I'm saying it.
The Cardinals, they did have an impressive win against Dallas last week. I think everyone sees why they're going to stick with Jacoby Brissett for another week. They're trying to say it has to do with Murray's injury, but
I don't think it is.
Not everyone believes it, with you being included. But they did have an impressive win against Dallas last week. The defense, honestly, for me, is kind of what stood out for Arizona the most because Dallas does not have an impressive defense. They might now with Quinnen Williams and Logan Wilson, but we'll see. But for Seattle, again, Sam Darnold was amazing last week. He had that one interception, but, I mean, interceptions happen. And the defense played great as well. And there's really kind of no reason to not pick the Seattle Seahawks right now, especially against an Arizona team at home. I got to go with the Seattle Seahawks, and I feel like a lot of people are feeling the same way right now.
Yeah, I agree 110%. This Seahawks team is really good, but don't count out that Cardinals offense. I think that Cardinals offense has quietly been very good. I think that a lot of people are expecting this game to be low scoring, and normally when they expect it to be low scoring, I expect it to be high scoring because it normally kind of flips that way. I mean, you see it all the time, except for apparently last week with that Bears-Bengals game, but I mean, we're still in that kind of situation where there's a lot going on. I do think that the Bears were a very good team, and I do think the Seahawks are also a very good team. So I think Seattle's going to take this one. Pretty decent game, though, back and forth. I think Arizona. I keep saying Chicago. I think that the Arizona Cardinals are a solid football team with Jacoby Brissett. I think they are better than with Kyler Murray. I think they proved that in this game. Keep it close, but they lose 31-21. The Cardinals have very much so been in every game that they've ever played against the Seahawks. For whatever reason, they play the Cardinals and the Seahawks do. They both play very well against each other. That NFC West is kind of weird to me because, you got the 49ers always very good against the Rams. The Rams are always good against the Seahawks, and the Seahawks almost always lose to the Cardinals too. So it's just so weird, and it's such a weird situation to be in. But I do think that this kind of situation, at least, Seattle kind of erases that narrative and wins this one. As give me the Seahawks, as well as both the AI and Brian, a clean sweep in that one. As we move into the next game, it is the Lions and the Commanders who are going to be playing this game with Marcus Mariota at quarterback after Jayden Daniels' serious arm injury. What a tough-ass dude, though, to not take the cart and go to the locker room with the cart. He just pops the brace on and just walks off to the sideline instead of taking the cart. That's insane right there by the toughness, at least, from Jayden Daniels. As my scouting report on Jayden Daniels coming out of college was that he could be the best quarterback out of the draft class. It's just he can't stay healthy. And, literally right now, that's been proven almost perfectly. When he's healthy, they can go to the NFC Championship. When he's not healthy, they are suffering very much so. And I think this is the situation that we're kind of getting into that RG3 territory here, as RG3 was also injured against the Seattle Seahawks. But we'll see what ends up happening with them. All points aside, the Lions are coming off a uninspiring game against the Minnesota Vikings, trying to handle business this time around. Can they on the road in Washington, or do the Commanders get some revenge for Jayden Daniels?
I mentioned this earlier for my reasoning for one of the other games I picked. The Lions are not going to lose 2 games in a row. I do not see it happening, especially going up against the Commanders team that has really been decimated by injuries this season, which includes Jayden Daniels last week. I feel like it can especially be a huge morale killer for the Commanders right now, as I feel like it's kind of an easy game to pick a little bit. I wanted to almost pick it as my lock of the week to start. I actually scribbled it out. I got a little hesitant near the end, so I ended up switching it to a different game. And then I switched it to a different game, but we'll get to that later.
Oh, my gosh.
But definitely jumping around a lot with that. But Lions are not one of those teams that end up losing 2 games in a row, like I mentioned. And for that, to put it simply enough, give me the Lions.
Yeah, I agree for everything you said. I think the Lions are simply the better football team in this one. They're coming off a loss, so they're going to be inspired to come out and win. They've only lost 4 times in a row under the Dan Campbell era, and all 4 of those were in that first year where they were really fucking bad. So I do think that nonetheless that this team in Washington can definitely compete. We saw them beat the Lions in the playoffs last year, but that was with, of course, Jayden Daniels, and I think this time around, without JD, without anything else going for them, I think they're going to fall in this one pretty hefty, 31-7 in my lock of the week.
There you go.
I do think that the Commanders are a good team on paper, but without Jayden Daniels, they're not going to be good enough to be a Lions team coming off a loss. Lions handle business on the road. As we move into our last division rivalry matchup of the week, and our last game that's not primetime for the week as well, the 49ers and the Rams. The 49ers beat the Rams on Thursday Night Football earlier in this season in a pretty good game for my fantasy team between Christian McCaffrey and Kyren Williams.
Yeah.
But this time around, do you think the Rams are going to get some revenge and win this one? A pretty important game for the NFC West, and I'm pretty sure the Seahawks are the happiest team alive right now, considering these 2 teams are playing and they play the Cardinals. So there's a very good chance that the Seahawks pull away from the rest of the teams in the division if one thing happens, and that would be a Rams loss. Mm-hmm. Do you think the 49ers or the Rams take this one? What do you think?
For a game like this, I feel like there's so many, for every game, you can look at so many stats, you can look at what you want, everything like that. You can see how the teams have been playing in recent weeks. I feel like, especially considering how teams have been playing in recent weeks, you should pick the LA Rams, you would think, but going up against a team like the 49ers, and it's always, you mentioned it earlier, when one team plays the other, one team typically always wins. And that's the San Francisco 49ers. So give me the Niners to win this game. It is not my upset of the week, even though I kind of wanted it to be, but spreads had to be weird. So for this game, that's really kind of what it comes down to, because every time I pick the Rams to beat the Niners, always is the Niners, every time. And then I'll finally give in. And
Thank you for giving me the Rams pick.
Yeah, there you go. But I was going to be like, finally, I'm going to pick the Niners. And I think this happened, last year, 2 years ago. It might have been 2023, I think. I finally picked the Niners to beat them, and the Rams came in and just shellacked them. So I'm hoping it doesn't happen to me again this week, but I'm going to go with the Niners, even though I feel like they've kind of been teetering a little bit. I think they're going to get back on track here with a statement win against the Rams.
Yeah, this Rams team is very good, but obviously the 49ers kind of seem to be their kryptonite. However, in the last 4 straight seasons, the 49ers and the Rams have split the season series. And with that being said, I do think that the 49ers are going to lose this week to the LA Rams. I trust the Rams too much in this situation. And on top of that, they lost last time because Christian McCaffrey couldn't be stopped. They're going to hone in on Christian McCaffrey this time. And realistically, there's nobody else on that offense that can really do anything to hurt the Rams enough to win this game for them. So with that being said, I do think the 49ers will have a solid game. It'll obviously be close. These are 2 of the best teams in the division and the conference. But I do think the Rams slightly edge them out, especially considering it's still Mac Jones at quarterback. 28-23. Give me. Well, Los Angeles Rams, Jesus.
Some suspense there.
Yeah, with my hiccup. But the Los Angeles Rams take care of business in this one, so go ahead and give me the Rams to win this game as we move into the Sunday Night Football game. It is the Los Angeles Chargers taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers in what seems like is going to be your upset of the week because of the spread. But either way, the Chargers are coming in off a win last week, and the Steelers are coming in off a win last week. One inspiring and one very impressive, and one, expected, as they took down the Titans, the Chargers did. Steelers take down the Colts, 2 AFC South teams they took down. However, it is a lot of different things to get into this game, but I'll go with my stats in a moment after I get your score and not score, but thought process on this game.
Yeah, you kind of hit the head on the noggin there with the point spreads there. This is my upset of the week.
Yeah.
Give me the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm not going to lie. I kind of wanted to pick the Niners as my upset of the week, but I was determined to stick by the spreads for this. So I ended up having this game as my upset of the week. But I feel like the Steelers' defense could have figured something out last week against the Colts, because the Colts' offense has been borderline unstoppable for those first 8 weeks of the season until they played the Steelers. And the Steelers' defense, everyone knows, has been really underperforming this season. Mm-hmm. And they really had a standout game against the Colts last week, which I don't think many people saw coming. The AI did, apparently. But
yeah.
So I really feel like that's something the Steelers can really build off of going into the second half of the season here. As for the Chargers, they had a really underwhelming performance to me. They played arguably one of the worst teams in the league in the Tennessee Titans, and it was close throughout that entire game. A lot of it was due to the pick six, and there was the kicker punt return, I believe there was. Yeah, the punt return that happened.
2 things for their defense.
Yeah, there you go. But it really kind of took the Chargers pretty much the remainder of the game to kind of like seal that win in the end. So, and the Chargers have been inconsistent like this past month, really. I feel like they really have been. So it's been kind of tough for me to pick them to win football games as of late. And I feel like the Steelers honestly have been a bit more consistent team than the Chargers have as of late. So give me the Pittsburgh Steelers here in an upset on Sunday night.
Sorry, but I have to talk about the Rams and 49ers because I forgot to give the AI and Brian's picks.
I'm sorry.
The AI will be siding with you, and Brian is also picking the LA Rams alongside me. As now I'm going to move into my statistics for this game before I get into my pick. But it's probably a little bit too late for the Steelers to change this to a 1 o'clock game or a 4 o'clock game. But they are the worst team in Monday Night Football this season. They are 0-2 in primetime this year and 5-1 when they don't play in primetime. Over the past year, so the last 12 months, they are 0-5 in primetime games, and they're 9-4 in all other situations. Not the situation you want to be in, as that is not what you want to see. And then if you look at the LA Chargers, the Chargers have played up to expectations. Under the lights, as their name implies, as the Chargers, as they are not only on a 4-game win streak on the night game situation, but they were averaging 29.5 points per game on those games. They've beaten teams like the Kansas City Chiefs, who nobody picked them to beat, except for me, really, in Week 1 in that game against them in Brazil, which was a night game, of course. And then on top of that, they've also won some very good games in the past in these night games, so very good for them. So the advantage in that situation goes to the Chargers for sure here. Obviously, you can't solely base it off of that, but if you look at last week, the Pittsburgh Steelers defense stopped the run to lead into the passing game and force Jones and company to play from behind. That's why their pass defense did so well, because they were playing from behind the whole game. In a game like this, where I don't think the Chargers have that good of a running game, they're probably going to throw the ball a lot. And against the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, which we mentioned last week, is one of the worst teams statistically in the league right now against the pass. I think it favors the Chargers through and through in this situation, obviously being a night game, and then, of course, having Justin Herbert and company to throw the football in this kind of situation. Steelers have yet to win 2 games in a row in 4 weeks. I don't think it happens again this week. Go ahead and give me the Steelers to lose. I think that this is going to be a good football game, but I do think LA holds them off. 31-24, and a little bit higher scoring than a lot of people will probably predict for a game between Mike Tomlin and Jim Harbaugh. But I do think that's what ends up happening. As go ahead and give me the Chargers as we close it out on Monday Night Football. Before we get into that, the Chargers is the AI's pick.
The Brian
and the return. Brian's upset is Pittsburgh.
Hey.
So you guys both have the same upset in something that's not an upset.
Brian's upsets are jinxes, so the Chargers are going to win. Curse you, Brian, ruining my upset of the week.
Thank you, Brian, anyway. As the AI sides with me, which is also pretty much a curse at this point. So moving into the next game, it is the Philadelphia Eagles traveling into Lambeau Field to take on the Green Bay Packers. Packers coming off an upset after losing to the Carolina Panthers. They've beaten so many good teams. They've beaten teams like the Lions, but they can't beat the Browns or the Panthers, apparently. So that's where we draw the line. Or they tie with the Cowboys, for example. So whatever else you need to know about this Packers team, it is inconsistency for sure. But the Eagles cruised through last week as they are now the 1 seed after just sitting on bye week. They're now the 1 seed in the NFC. So fucking awesome for them. But, nonetheless, they are the 1 seed. Do you think the Packers get back to their winning ways in this game, or do the Eagles, with a bolstered team after the deadline, win this one?
Record-wise, these are 2 of the top teams in the NFC right now. So it's definitely going to be a very interesting Monday night game. There's a lot of playoff implications on the line here in this one. Honestly, you can kind of pick who you want in this one. I think it's another one of those games. Packers have shown that they're inconsistent. The Eagles shown that they were inconsistent earlier in the season. I feel like they started figuring things out a little bit, and they just had the bye week here. So I'm kind of hinting at it a little bit, but give me the Philadelphia Eagles to win this one. Packers are the favorites, but they just came off a really tough loss against the Panthers, which I think might lead them actually playing a bit better in this game. We'll see, but Eagles coming off the bye, I feel like they're going to have a fresh mindset here. I feel like the Eagles are always a lot better in the second half of the season. At least they have been the past couple years.
Agreed.
So I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles to take care of business and to take down the Green Bay Packers, which opens up the NFC North a little bit here.
Yeah, I agree, and everybody is going to side with the Philadelphia Eagles, but my reason for the Eagles winning this game is since the start of the 2023 season, the Eagles are 7-0 in the month of November, and on top of that, it won't be an easy streak to defend here, obviously being on the road in Lambeau on a Monday night, but they're coming off the bye, which they have yet to lose in the Nick Sirianni era after the bye week as well. And I think that one of the things here is they have also, the funniest thing of all of this, is they have yet to lose with Howie Roseman. In 9 years, they have not lost the week after the trade deadline. Not once. 9 straight years. They've yet to lose the week after the trade deadline. And I think this is kind of because of that whole situation when, they're a very good team, obviously, but any weaknesses they have, Howie Roseman's like, you know what, we'll get rid of those. Brandon Beane, take notes. Anyway, moving into this, though, it's just like he goes out and he fixes those issues right before that trade deadline week's over. And then going out of that, they're always good. And obviously the last 2 years has been a big reason for their success, has been part of that. They're 7-0 in the month of November in the last 2 years. I went in and did a little bit advanced research. It's not on this sheet, but 4-3 is the Green Bay Packers record in the month of November over the last 2 years. So not the greatest situation for the Green Bay Packers to be in this kind of a game, especially after the Eagles' bye week and everything else in their favor. So many new additions coming in like Jair Alexander, Jalen Phillips, and a few others. I think this is going to be a pretty easy game for the Philadelphia Eagles to win, and dare I say easy, but I think it is. 27-20 Go ahead and give me the Eagles in a pretty easy one. As that'll wrap up another week of football. I can't believe we're already in Week 10, but here we are, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, Owen holding the trophy for potentially the last time this season.
Nah, there'll be another time.
Who knows? But
I hope.
Well, I hope. But we'll see what ends up happening. Thank you guys again for tuning in to another episode of the OT Podcast. As always, Owen, I'll kick it to you to turn us off of this show and highlight.
All right, well, if you guys, again, want to see my score predictions, you'll see him covering Thomas's ugly face right over there. If you guys want to subscribe to the channel, that'd be oh so amazing. It'll be right around here against my amazing, beautiful face. But if you guys enjoyed the video and you want to leave a thumbs up, it'd be greatly appreciated. Already mentioned the subscribe, watching the score prediction video, all that fun stuff. So with that being said, I don't got much else to say except Lifeforms out.